For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bennett Byerley, and I'm our first graduating speaker to speak today. Now, if you ask my mom about me, she'll tell you that I love to hear myself talk. So I'm going to take this opportunity, and you're all obligated to listen to me, to try to express how grateful I am for what you have done for me by serving as my church, my community, as my caring friends, and in probably a more accurate word, my loving family. In this place, I have found so much more than an incredibly high concentration of politically charged bumper stickers. Or a parking lot that looks more like a Prius dealership. No, really, Toyota should be our official sponsor. No, here I have found an irreplaceable part of my childhood. A place overflowing with love, teeming with promise, and a place where I have been helped to find my way. Next year, I will deeply miss being an active member of this church. But as I think about my impending move from the pollinated humidity of the South to the harsh winters up north, my thoughts are drawn to all of the wonderful times that I've had in this church. From youth group, to being on session, to hours of meetings, and I do mean hours, to mission trips, to just sitting in the pews each Sunday. But more importantly, I think about all that I have learned from you. So here are the few of the pieces of advice that I've picked up from my time at the Rec. First, I've learned from your example to love expressively and inclusively. One of my fondest memories from my time here at the Rec was working at the Learning Camp in Baltimore. There, 2 summers ago, I met Malik, a rambunctious second grader who could not spell his name nor count past 3. After some brainstorming with the other counselors, I sat him on my lap, sprayed shaving cream on the table, and held his hand while we drew numbers and letters together while laughing on the phone. Malik had been through a heartbreaking amount of hardship for a kid who hadn't yet had his 7th birthday. His father had just been in prison. He often saw drugs sold on the street, and he was close with a teenage neighbor who had been shot and killed in clear sight. He and I didn't have much in common, other than the fact that we were there together playing in the shaving cream. But my time here at the Rec taught me that that was enough. There is always something in shared humanity that fosters love. As his joyful eyes, full of hope and promise, looked into mine, our souls connected. In that moment, I felt the wonderful happiness that comes from putting aside our differences and jumping into the vulnerability that love entails. For teaching me about that Rec love, I can't thank you enough. Unfortunately, Malik's Baltimore is in need of some love this week. I hate to think about how his already difficult life has been upended by this recent outpouring of anger. His school was closed this past week, so he instead had to watch as dozens of buildings and cars burned. He had to stop playing basketball with the other children and look up to see police officers and National Guard troops standing around, holding automatic weapons with fingers much too close to the triggers. Now, Malik's world was already bleak. The streets there were so segregated that when we came to camp, some children asked to feel Cody's hair because they had never been close to a white person's hair before. And more children in his class at school will be incarcerated in their early adult years than will graduate high school. In that environment, where is the love for Malik? Why must his first meeting with society be one where he is met with disgust, when the world tells him that he isn't important and that he's doomed to failure? That isn't the open and inclusive Rec love that you have taught me. You taught me that God never says, I love you if. God always leaves it at, I love you. But out in the world, we don't practice this radically inclusive love nearly as much as we should. What we as human beings need has been made too painfully clear. The world needs more love. Now, no one is saying that this love is easy, but that brings me to my second lesson that comes to mind from my time here at the Rec. It comes from one of Katie's final sermons here when she told us to live in the tension of human relationships. She told us to dive in, to go whole hog, accepting all the strings attached, and to cherish that sense of vulnerability that comes from caring about people. She showed me how to dwell in the wonderful messiness of community, the joy, the hope, the confusion, the hesitation, the loss, the grief. Those are not bad characteristics. In fact, it is those imperfections that make relationships with others so valuable. That is what can be learned in Malik's Baltimore. There, tensions between people struggling with living together are blatantly obvious. Yes, these tensions hurt, but this tension, this difficulty in trying to find reconciliation should not be avoided. We cannot shy away from the truth that making a society in the image of God is hard. We must dive into this tension because the fact is that on earth as in heaven is not a cakewalk. But through the tension, we must take action. That is the third lesson that stands out from what you have taught me at the rec. You taught me to not shy away from issues. You taught me to run towards them, to get my hands dirty, to accept the possibility of failure, and to try to put something good together. This spirit of action fueled our mission trip to Baltimore, and it rubbed off on me to try to see what love and action can produce in that short time 2 summers ago. By the end of that week of playing in shaving cream, Malik could write his numbers and, more importantly, his name. Once too insecure to hold a pencil, Malik had been empowered, and now, each time he wrote a number, was pumping his fists in excitement. That little bit of action based on love probably did not achieve much real-world applicability, and maybe it will not help him graduate high school. But that time brought a little more light into his heart, and probably even more light into mine. Often I watch a video of him squealing with delight after he successfully drew a 4 in the shaving cream, and it still brings a joyful tear to my eye. The spirit of action and the desire to see what the effects could be stirred brimming passions within Dylan, Brandon, and me. You then gave us the resources and the opportunity to work on Curtis Harper's vision for a tutoring program with the kids at Elliott Woods. Now this program isn't huge, and it probably won't lead to dramatic academic improvement, but I can say something for sure. It brought a little more love into the world. It has chipped away at a global love deficit by causing more bonding experiences like with Malik and the shaving cream. When we all apply our skills and act, our love can be multiplied in ways that we could never imagine. Action combined with love gives us the unbounded strength necessary so that we can someday climb that mountaintop, we can someday find that beautiful reconciliation, and that someday we can get one step closer to the perfect dream of on earth as in heaven. For teaching me to act with a basis in love, I thank you. As we seniors leave, we have to remember that the lessons learned here will remain engraved on our hearts forever. They will guide our future lives and help us to unlock our potential. Love inclusively, live in the tension, and take action. That's what I'm feeling as I leave this place. From our own personal lives to the streets of Malik's Baltimore, these lessons from the rec will serve us well in our drive to add a little more love to the world. Thank you again for all that you've done for me. I am so proud and so humbled to call this my home and you my family. Amen.